Okay, really quickly before I say anything else, Content Farm is now entirely on Spotify, as will be all future episodes. So if you're watching this on YouTube and you don't own premium, so you have to watch with video, or you just don't want to deal with YouTube ads or whatever it is, then click the link to Spotify in the description and watch over there instead. Okay. Peter, welcome back. Episode 3.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. I feel like we're basically podcast veterans at this point. I'm half expecting an email from G Fuel at some point. You know, maybe
Yeah,
get Jeff
don't
Bezos in
hold your
there as well.
breath.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm expecting the email just so I can turn it down.
Yeah, exactly. We've got a few things lined up this week. It's been kind of an interesting week. We had State of Play, which is probably the first thing we're going to talk about. Also, just
Mhm.
some other random shite that I wanted to get to as well. Do you want to, shall we talk about State of Play a little bit?
All right.
Well, we watched that together, and it was, you're not a console guy, so it was really more me who was
Mm-mm.
interested. And
Yeah,
honestly, State of Play wasn't great, even if you're a big PlayStation fan. I don't think there was much to gain from that. There's a few things that were
that's unfortunate.
salvageable though.
Hmm.
You saw the Onimusha Way of the Sword trailer, right? That's a big deal.
Yeah, that looked pretty cool.
What entry in the franchise is that? Do you know?
Gosh, I think it's the
I
second.
think
I think they only had that first one. I think if they didn't, then I'm not aware of them.
yeah. Is that the remaster that they also announced at the same time?
Yeah, and they announced it first. I really think they should announce it second because they announced it first, and I was like, because I heard there was an Onimusha announcement, and then it was the remake. I'm like, oh, I thought they were announcing a sequel. This is kind of lame.
Yeah. So
And
if
then
you
they
were,
went to with the sequel after it, and I'm like, "Oh, okay." Maybe some people knew about it ahead of time, but
I think it was
uh,
a thing
that was a
ahead of time.
really weird.
Yeah.
It would have been cool to be like, "There's a sequel," and you're like, "Oh yeah," and then when you're like, "Oh man, that won't be out for a while," and then you see, "Oh, the remake is gonna." So
Yeah.
that's cool though.
They should have dropped the remake like immediately. That would have been a nice way to do it. But
I think putting the remake out when Ghost of Tsushima came out would have been really good idea because that whole like dark fantasy samurai
yeah,
thing, it really nailed it for that.
you don't think it would have been
Um,
overshadowed by Tsushima a little bit?
I mean, not like when it came out, but
Not
like
when it
when
came
that
out,
was
in the
still and it
in the
was
general time.
yeah, like, and then maybe announced it a bit sooner, just so I don't know, but I'm not a marketing guy.
Yeah, well, I mean, as someone who hasn't played either like the first game, I think that looked cool as fuck. I'll definitely be interested in that.
It does. Yeah, I'm definitely interested.
It
I
was
think that'll be
probably
pretty cool.
it was somewhat of a standout compared to the other things that we saw. There was some other
Mhm.
really good stuff though. Um, so they announced a game called Saros, but it's like a spiritual sequel to the PS5 launch title roguelike Returnal, which obviously
Mhm.
you haven't played, but I played it and it was great, although it was really difficult, and I think I only like reached the end of the game one time. But I still poured a ton of hours into it, and it had really fun weapons. I think the main complaints were for it were that it lacked in like permanent upgrades, so it felt like, you know how when you're in a roguelike and you feel like you're just not getting any stronger? It was really bad for
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
I
But
hate that. Yeah, there's like a scaling to roguelikes. Some games like Gunfire Reborn, and I'll even say um gosh, what's the Castlevania like one that's slipping my mind?
can't help you on that one,
Vampire
pal.
Slayer.
Vampire
Is it
Slayer.
Vampire Killer or whatever? The pixely one. Those two, like, you seem to scale pretty extremely to where by the end you're just like some god,
Yeah. That's
and
what I
like you
like.
just having crazy powers, and it feels great, yeah. And then there's some roguelikes where it feels like it's just getting so much more difficult by the end that the upgrades aren't even they're not even keeping you alive. You know,
Yeah.
they're just barely doing anything, and uh, I mean, there's got to be a balance, but and it's hard to strike, and it depends on your build too, because like some of those you have to really aim for something, and some of them you just kind of grab whatever and it still works
You
depending
played
on what's viable.
yeah. Have you played Risk of Rain
Is
2?
that co-op? Oh
Is
yeah,
Returnal
yep,
co-op?
yeah.
No.
Oh, it isn't.
No, maybe this next one will be, but that one wasn't.
Oh, okay. because I wanted to play that. I heard good things, but it was PS
It's
exclusive,
PS
so
exclusive, so
yeah.
you're out of options there unless you want to bang out $600 or whatever it is over there.
Risk of Rain was one of those where you don't feel like your upgrades are catching up to you when it just gets more difficult and it's
Yeah,
just rough, you know.
Risk of Rain 2, I have to
Unless you
say.
have a
Risk of Rain 2 is my
yeah.
favorite roguelike, though. I fucking love that game. I only recently got into it. Um, that game has so many ridiculous items and upgrades that
Mhm.
like one playthrough will be completely different to the next one, depending on what items you got. And they also added features where if you had an item that you like, you could go to like a 3D printer and you could sacrifice other items that you don't like, and you'd get more of the item that you like, and they would stack. So, say an item was like a rocket that you could fire, you could sacrifice other items, and the damage of that rocket would stack every time you sacrificed another item. It was fantastic.
Hmm.
What else did PlayStation State of Play have to offer?
Oh,
Borderlands
Vampire
4,
Survivors.
Vampire
That's what I was going
Survivors. I knew when you said Slayer that wasn't 100% there.
Yeah, no. I'm thinking of the Castlevania the soundtrack of
Is that what that
Vampire
is?
Slayer.
Yeah.
I think that's what that is. I don't know. My brain's old and dusty. Bunch of cobwebs in there.
Yeah. But Borderlands 4, they showed. I think that was the first like big chunk of gameplay was in for Borderlands 4, and it didn't let down. It looked kind of like Borderlands 3 and 2, but just obviously bigger and more interesting and brighter and more explosive in scale.
Yeah. I never was a big fan of the Borderlands. I still played them all because my brother loves them, and it's some solid co-op play.
It's a great co-op
But
game.
I wasn't super. It was like the voice acting and the commentary of the people. I wasn't a big fan of
You went
that.
into it.
No. Some people absolutely love it. I'm just like, no,
I think
no.
it adds a bit of charm.
Yeah. I think you either love it or hate it, but it wasn't for me. I turned the dialogue volume to 0 now.
Oh my god, that's brutal.
Yeah. I'm just like, just let me kill stuff. I was raised in no story, all gameplay, console stuff. So story's always way back line for me. If the gameplay isn't there, I just can't get into it.
That's
Some people will
hardcore.
love a good story.
I
People
do.
love a good story and could
I
care
do.
less about a gameplay, and I'm complete opposite.
I
Complete
definitely I
opposite.
definitely land somewhere in the middle.
Mm.
I need a little bit of both, I think.
I can appreciate a good story, but it's not necessary at all. You can just tell me you're a space marine and aliens are bad. I'm like, yeah, let's do this.
You can tell you're not a PlayStation guy because that's like all of their games are. If you imagine it like a spectrum or a pendulum,
Yeah.
they're all just leaning towards story more so than like any other games.
Uh,
Something that I definitely like. The next most interesting, if we're treating it like a tier list for me, was probably Split Fiction, which is like the It Takes Two and is it No Way Out? It Takes Two and No Way Out, and those
yeah.
developers, the prison game,
Hmm.
and it looks kind of like the peak of that genre because I mean the point of the game Split Fiction is that you go through what seems to be like multiple settings in one game, but they range from like sci-fi third-person shooter to like silly little kids adventures, and I imagine the point is that you'll be flipping through all those genres, but obviously it's as those developers make their games, it's like two-player exclusive, meaning that you always have to interact with the co-op player, which is
Yeah.
just it's such a brilliant idea. I really like the way they pulled it off in
It's
in
good.
both of their early
Yeah.
games.
Yeah. It feels like an evolution of It Takes Two, which
Yeah,
was kind of more like cartoony and um I don't want to say like a kids show, but very very like toys.
yeah.
I'll
I
say
mean,
like
yeah,
that. And just like having it with actual people and like just changing the time and the
the setting.
different themes and stuff, the settings, and you got like space and you got medieval and all that stuff. Like it just seems like they can work with a lot more with it. And yeah, it's fun. I feel like it gives them a lot more possibilities for a different kind of what do you say, like mini games that
Yeah,
you'd put in there, or whatever you call them. So that's pretty cool. I'm pretty hyped for that.
yeah. Me and my girlfriend love those games, so I'll definitely be getting that as soon as it comes out, and we'll be going through that
Hmm.
together. Um, Other than that, Lies of P DLC. I know you're not a big Souls guy, but Lies of P is a fucking amazing game. Lies of P is like a.
I did play Lies of P,
You did
yeah.
play Lies of P?
It's great,
Played
yeah.
all of it?
Yeah. My friend had it, and then I'd go over, to her house to play it sometimes,
Yeah.
and every now and then she'd get stuck on a boss, and I'd help her
Yeah.
slam my head into the ground to beat it,
Yeah.
and there's some hard bosses in there, but it's really great, the parry mechanic, which is you block, but you block at right the time when you're getting hit,
Yeah, it's a quite a common
and
mechanic in those games, but that game implemented it as well as other like forms of damage negation from like collected from all sorts of Souls like games. So
mhm.
it had the ability to like regain health. If you get hit and you hit someone back quite quickly, you can regain health. It's from Bloodborne, like Blood Tinge. That's like the Souls like.
They had some cool systems in there, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and the
Thought it was
setting's
sweet,
cool
and
as fuck.
the whole, like, it's Pinocchio, but it's
Pinocchio.
dark.
Who'd have thought the
Uh,
Pinocchio Souls like game would be
I
like
did
the
I would
good one?
never if you told me, "Yeah, it's a Souls-like game, but it's based on Pinocchio," I'd be
Yeah,
like,
I'd
"Get out."
laugh. Yeah,
Yeah, like, it's nothing.
but it's dark. It's dark Pinocchio. I mean, I think the
Mhm.
original Pinocchio story is dark, so it makes sense. I'm not familiar.
Yeah, I think a lot of those, grim fairy tales were very grim. I think that's what actually spawned the word,
I think so.
but yeah,
DLC
it's,
announced. DLC looks cool.
DLC. Yeah, yeah, it does. I remember they were talking about a sequel. It was gonna be another fairy tale that it was based on. Did you hear about that?
Um, yeah, I can't remember what the fairy tale they said was, or if they announced, or if they even
Mhm,
said. But yeah, I know they are working on a sequel,
mhm.
so they got their hands full probably.
Yeah. Mhm.
Snake
It's
Eater.
great.
We talked about Snake Eater last week, so we'll leave that one. They showed. I think they just showed like a little bit more gameplay, and then something a bit controversial was the Days. They announced a Days Gone remaster? Question marks.
Yeah.
The game is not dated at all. The game actually looks great. The first time I played it was a couple of years ago, and it's a beautiful looking game. I think it is a PS. It's like I think it's a late PS4 game. It's not a PS5 game, but obviously it's one of those that you could just buy on PS5. They might have even given it.
Yeah, I don't feel like it's old enough to deserve a remaster.
No,
Like, it just feels so desperate. And then you see the comparison images and there's literally no change.
no change.
It just looks really bad.
I actually heard
And
that
then you
some
brought up
fans. Sorry,
that the studio was seeking funding for a sequel, right?
I don't know if they said
Or
that. That
something?
was just what I was thinking. Like because
Oh.
I'm trying to think of a motivation for this move. It's either that they can't make a sequel ever, so this is what they're doing instead, or they want to make a sequel,
Mhm.
so they're hoping that a remaster will reinvigorate the game a little bit.
It was a dumb move because it just looks it's just pointless. There's no perceivable difference. Like, people were showing you see the meme where it shows the images of the PS4 and the PS4 Pro
Yeah,
version of games,
yeah.
and then they'd be like, "I see no difference." But if and I agree, like, the difference is almost imperceivable. But if you zoom in, you could see very slight differences. They were slightly different, but not enough to make it worthwhile. No way. I agree. It's like, it's pretty minimal. But when I saw the remaster of this and the original, it looked like the same image.
Hilarious.
I couldn't tell the difference. There was one image where, like, he had blood on his shirt, and the other image
It's
he didn't have
removed.
blood.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they removed the blood. So that was the only image I could tell the difference. All the other ones, they just looked exactly the same. It was terrible. How are you gonna try to put a remaster out
I was actually
that
about to
doesn't
say
even change anything?
there's a little bit of controversy because there is a few pictures that have come out officially, and fans are upset that some of them look downgraded, which is so funny. But not like downgraded fidelity wise, but I think they might have made some very slight like art design changes that fans
Mm,
aren't incredibly happy about.
yeah, I remember The Last of Us, I don't know if it was a remaster, whatever you call it, but The Last of Us, um, did a re-release, and they, like, changed the models so much that, like, the characters changed what they look like. You remember that?
Well, it's had yes, I know which one you mean, but it's had two remasters. It had a remaster when the PS4 came out, which was like a little graphical jump just for the PS4's launch, and
Mhm.
then like midway through the PS5's life cycle, I think was it, God, was it early last year? It was either early last year or 2023. Oh God, It's terrible. I don't remember when that came out, but but they
Mm,
actually fully re-released it. They call it The Last of Us Part One, and it was a full remaster. It was made to look graphically the same as the sequel, or maybe even a little bit better than the sequel. And that is the one where, like you said, I think they made some characters look like their character models from the second game, even though
mm.
I don't. Yeah, even though I don't think it was really necessary, and I think a lot of fans weren't happy with those
But
changes
the second
because
game was different. It was a time skip from the first, right?
yeah, but they had flashbacks where they would include the characters as they looked from the first game, but they looked slightly different. They are canonically still the same, and they're in the same outfits and stuff. They just looked a little bit different, which was, and the reason it's an issue is because people who played the second game thought that those models looked worse. Like they looked like their
Mm.
faces look different. Mainly
That
Ellie.
yeah, it was. They did. I mean, they looked like they had more polygons and better textures and stuff, but they looked worse.
Yeah, like
They
they
just looked
looked
so
like
much different. Like they didn't look like the characters.
yeah,
I agree, and it's so bad. And like people will probably say, "Oh, it's a freedom of creative whatever." It's like no, like once you create a character, people will have you know an image of what it looks like. And like they'll change it from sequels and stuff, and that's one thing. Like what was another one? Alloy. You remember a lot of that
Aloy.
hoopla? It's
Um,
Aloy?
I I think
I've
it's
only read it
Aloy.
on text. I've never heard
Yeah,
it said out loud.
I
So
think it's
I always assumed
Aloy.
it was like a metal, like an alloy,
Yeah, I think
because
it's the
like
play on words, but
because
it's yeah.
because because the monster's made of metal and stuff. But okay, if it's Aloy, then whatever.
I think it's just
Um,
supposed to be alloy because it's metal, but they made it they wanted to make it sound a little bit different, so it's Aloy instead.
oh, okay.
I think I
Yeah,
could be. I
I
have
remember
played the
that
first game.
change.
Yeah,
Yeah, they really changed her in the sequel, and
yeah,
there was a lot of upset over that.
yeah.
Um, so maybe similar to that,
I think I'd give that
but
a pass though because it is a sequel set in the future, so there's a possibility that the
mhm,
character. I mean, if they the thing is when you make characters look actually different, one in a way that doesn't make sense, like for example in Halo, how Halo 3 and Halo 4 are directly connected, as in Master Chief goes into a tube and comes out of the tube, but he looks completely different. There's no excuse. There's literally no excuse for doing that. But if you're gonna
yeah,
say like some time passed and they looked a little bit different, it's a little bit more forgivable. But the main point is
mm.
people like just don't change them. Like if it's not broken, don't fix it. I think that's the main point.
And the sequel, yeah, I could see that. Like I said, they kind of tend to change it from sequel to sequel, and some people love it, some people hate it, but it's just an update of graphics. But when they took the original and they remastered it, that was not that was not called for.
No, it's weird.
So yeah, it was weird. One of the largest changes I've seen in a remaster to a character design.
Yeah.
So and in a game with so much story, like you said, it just with so much face time with the
Yeah.
characters, it definitely has much more impact than otherwise.
Especially when the first game was like extremely beloved. When you do this with something that's very beloved,
Oh yeah,
you're
yeah.
asking for trouble.
Very popular, very well loved franchise. And just to be like, but
We
maybe
like this
it's
better.
very George Lucas, I know people love Star Wars, but let me just add these scenes in here because they'll make it better. Trust me.
God, don't get
Oh
me
yeah.
started on that fella. But yeah,
No, I won't.
I think I think that's everything that I wanted to talk about from State of Play. And I know like
Mm.
we missed a lot of stuff. There was a couple of cool sword slashy games that looked great, but I don't know any. I didn't want to mention them. I didn't find anything notable about them that I thought was worth bringing up. They might be great.
Yeah, yeah. Mostly the ones we mentioned.
Most of the ones we mentioned. Yeah,
There's there's a lot of the older titles that they put at the end that were being put onto
yeah, they did that. Yeah,
that they threw on, which I mean it's cool that they do that, but man, just the fact that you have to hope they put it on a newer system, or you have no chance of playing it when it's no longer available in stores or something like that. Like Nintendo is especially bad for that because they had the Nintendo store that they put a lot of the older games on, like for the Wii.
yeah.
You know, they had a bunch of games you could play emulated through the Wii, and then the Switch came out, and then or the Wii U came out or whatever,
The
and
Wii
then
U.
Yeah, and then like some of those games we're able to put over, some weren't, and it feels like it should be so easy just to transfer over once you've emulated it, to your newer
You would
system.
think so.
And but every time they have a new console, it's a struggle, to get those. They've been doing a better job with Switch, but
They've been locking it behind
uh,
a subscription though, right? That was what happened. That's what I remember from last time I played my Switch. Anyway, you paid for when you paid for
yeah,
Nintendo's, what is it called, Nintendo Online.
online. Yep. Now you have to pay for the
you'd get
online.
access to to like a full catalog of emulated games,
Mhm.
which is cool. It's better than nothing.
Which yeah, it's honestly, it's better than buying them individually, because if they sold them individually, they would not be priced at a
No,
very fair point.
not by
It'd be like
Nintendo.
$5 to $10 for like a game that's like older than most of the people playing the system probably are,
Yeah.
So,
Speaking of
but speaking of
Nintendo,
Nintendo,
though,
yeah,
we got some harsh words for them because
hmm
the Pal World debacle is still ongoing, and
yeah,
somewhat recently there was news that they've tried to. I guess they've tried to create patents. So it's not really the
yeah.
same. It's not really the same thing as like filing a direct lawsuit. Is that like, am I right? Am I correct in saying that they're trying to create
They
patents?
made the lawsuit,
Yeah,
and they're alleging copyright infringement,
yeah,
and then they apply for the patents
yeah.
after they did the lawsuit. So they're like, "Oh, you're violating our Pokemon," and then they did the, "Okay, go make some go make some patents or something so we can argue that they broke them."
Yeah.
And I think it was
Directed at Pal World,
23
by the way. I think we
patents.
should mention that we are talking about Pal World.
Oh yeah, Pal World,
To be
yeah,
clear,
yeah. And 23 of the
obviously
patents were submitted, and only 22 were accepted. Or, I mean, 22 were
rejected.
rejected. Only one was, I don't even want to say was accepted,
No,
because it was, they said they'd accept one on the basis that they no longer submit the other 22, because it was kind of based on one of them.
yeah,
So,
that's what I read as well. I think the one that was accepted was
hmm,
kind of required some other ones to also be in place. So that's
yeah.
not it's not important anyway. So I mean,
So big L for Nintendo on
big
that
L for
one.
Nintendo, and it's kind of hilarious, and they
Hmm.
deserve it because, as I've said, they really need to just take the inspiration and do better because Pal World is kind of an eye opener for the Pokemon scene because
Yeah.
this is the kind of game that Pokemon
Imagine
fans have been asking
someone
for.
else comes out and makes a game in the genre that you've kind of owned for the last couple decades,
Yeah,
and has been seen as kind of failing, and has been pulling the numbers you see, and then just someone comes out of the blue, makes a game close enough to it that it just draws an audience like mad. And your only reaction to it is, well, we need to sue them so they're no longer a competitor. It's
yeah,
very
terrible,
Nintendo of them. Yeah.
absolutely terrible. Pal World is great though. It's everything that a Pokemon fan wants in a Pokemon game. Really, it's very open world. It's very interactive. Like
Mhm.
just the idea of walking around and seeing huge seeing huge pals walking around like the size of dinosaurs and shit is
Yeah, it's great.
fantastic.
It's a really good idea to like make a base where you can just have them roaming around, and you can have them assist you with doing a
They
bunch of the
can
more grindy kind of
literally
thing, like
assist you live.
gathering, or crafting and stuff like that. So they have a use. They're not just there just
They're
to
not just
be
in your bag.
decorations. So yeah, and they all have different stats and abilities. So it was a really interesting way to you know to approach that. And that they get a lot of guff over it, like, oh, they pretty much copied this character for like. And there's definitely some that are really
There's some really
questionably
sketchy
close,
ones. Yeah.
but for the most part, it's just they hit the style so well, you know that they were able to make these that are honestly different, but they look like they could have been, Pokemon. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. And it brings up the question of, do Nintendo really hold the right to that entire like art style? And the answer is obviously no. As was confirmed by the patents,
No,
because
no,
just because no one else has done it before doesn't mean it's yours. People didn't want to touch
yeah.
you because you're such a huge franchise, and now that someone did it, you can't you can't throw a hissy fit over it.
Well,
It's
I thought about that. I thought about why they hadn't had a competitor, and they did. They had
Digimon.
Digimon, yeah, and so they actually did. And I haven't heard any lawsuits about them suing Digimon.
Yeah, I don't know
Have
what's up
you?
with that. No, I haven't.
Okay, Kitty, you can't chew my monitor.
Oh my god.
That's a bit too far. Okay, he's chewing right where the button to is, so that the UI is just going crazy.
That's funny.
Um,
I'd laugh if you just blacked out.
he's a black cat, so maybe.
Maybe.
No, he's chewing. He hasn't done that before either. Um,
Active sabotage attempt.
he is. He's actively sabotaging. He's really good at it. So, and yeah, I'm hoping Nintendo, when they make the next Pokemon thing, they get some inspiration from what they've been seeing in this, and out of anything from Pal World.
Maybe not the
Because,
guns though.
yeah, oh, they won't. No, they won't put guns for sure.
Maybe not the AKs.
No, but they gotta do something to the franchise because I haven't been a big Pokemon fan, but just from what I've heard from my friends who are, like, the last couple games have just been cash grabs pretty much because
Horrible.
they haven't put
Horrible games.
that much QA into it, and they don't feel like much is new, and it feels a bit grindy. And another one is just that, and then this is probably a complaint for the series in general, but it's just too easy.
Oh, it's a baby game. I think it's
Yeah.
Sword and Shield. I might be getting the name wrong, but it's the last one I played like a lot on the Switch, and it was so easy. I could play. You could, if you really wanted to, you could beat all of the gyms with your first Pokemon in your selection. With the first Pokemon, it's that easy. As long as you are like optimizing and stuff, and using all your
Yeah.
best shit, you could just smash through the game. Which is funny because when I was little playing Pokemon, sorry, on the DS, I remember getting really mad. Like it was pretty fucking difficult. Like going to a gym on DS was like a big deal. I was like, I'd have to leave and come back and like build up my Pokemon army a little bit.
Mhm.
It's just not a
And that's what
thing.
games should be about. They should be, the further you get into the game, the more it should challenge you, the more systems it throws on you, the more it makes you use the basics, hammers and the basics and stuff. When it's just like, a walk through the park, and because it doesn't seem to me like Pokemon is a very story centric game.
I
So
wouldn't
to
say
have
so.
gameplay that's so minimal like that. Yeah, I know. I'm telling him.
Yeah, well, hopefully
Yeah.
Pokemon takes it on the chin, Nintendo rather, and just
They don't seem to be with these lawsuits,
you
but
know,
hey, Pal World 2 could come out, and then maybe Nintendo will rethink their whole strategy. I just hope it eats enough into their profits that they really rethink where they're going with the series. 'Cause it's so sad to see such a well-loved series just kind of wallowing because there's nothing really you know,
I'm sure they'll be back.
to compete with it.
I'm sure they'll be back.
Yeah. Mm.
Probably on the Switch too.
We'll see. We shall
Well,
see.
on the topic of companies doing terrible things,
Mhm.
Xbox have just come out of their worst year on record. Their sales were 42% down in Q4 24, which I assume means compared to Q4 2023. I think that's what they're what that article was saying.
Yeah, year over year.
The whole year was worse than 2023, obviously, which 2023 was already a shit year for Xbox.
Mm.
There's a couple of potential reasons for that. I put down a couple. Mainly, Game Pass has seems to be kind of a double edged sword because as a consumer, it's great, but now they've committed to it so much that I feel like it's too easy to just have Game Pass on PC and then you have a PC, not an Xbox, and you
Mhm.
don't have to deal with owning an Xbox. And Game Pass is a great deal on PC. There's good Xbox games available on PC, most of them now. So they're kind of eliminating the reasons that you should own an Xbox. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Are we talking about console sales or game sales on the console?
Console sales.
Okay. Because yeah, definitely if you extend your library to PC as a console, it'll sell less consoles. That just makes sense.
Mhm.
But I think it's great they're doing that because
It's great.
so many of these console games are exclusive to consoles, and you just don't get to play them. It's so terrible for the user base. And as someone who's selling a game, you have less of an audience if you're only selling it to one console's worth. So it just seems terrible for devs, terrible for players. Um, but yeah, but that's kind of like how they try to sell consoles and with their exclusives and stuff. And if you don't have exclusives, then you suffer, which is what we're seeing with Xbox, which is unfortunate. But I think it's part of their strategy. They're leaning more into the shared marketplace between them, and they're going to do more of that to a point that they're putting a lot more of their games on competing systems,
Yeah.
like the PlayStation. So I could definitely understand why their console sales are down, but I feel like this will be better for the video game makers, the devs, the creators,
It's an objective win
because they have this.
for everyone apart from
Yeah,
Xbox.
right, right. So, but yeah, I could see why they're going down. Why do you think?
Um, I think I agree. I think it's just that. I think the console sales are obviously going to drop, but I think maybe the plan is to just make it back with game sales and Xbox. And I mean, obviously, Xbox Game Pass is like the flagship of their entire industry now. And following on from what you said about expanding cross-platform, Phil Spencer said that future Xbox showcases will now like include the PlayStation logo. You know, if they're putting a game on PlayStation, they'll show both
Mm,
logos, which is kind of funny, kind of a big deal because it just shows how far Xbox have come, really, and just the state of exclusive games in general. It's kind of something that's fading away a little
I
bit. It
think it's
seems.
great.
Yeah.
People will crap all over that, but that's an awesome move, and I
Only the
appreciate he's
console
going for
army,
that.
console fanboys will crap all over it, I think, which is a lot of people. But yeah,
Yeah, it's great. I love it. I want to see more of it too, because like a lot of these games you're bringing up, I just haven't been able to play them because they're just not on PC.
yeah,
And like the funny thing is they're developed on computers,
yeah,
and they just don't want to put in that little extra bit of, because the hardest part of making a game is making the game, and then if you're a huge studio, it's so much it's so much easier just to have it converted to you know being able to play on PC, but they just don't want to put up with the support, or they just don't want to deal with it. But it's how you get more money out of what you already have made. It makes a little sense to me not even attempt a port.
yeah.
And I know there's some shitty ports out there, and it's not as easy as I say, I'm sure. But just the fact that so many they've shown it's possible, so many of these devs, and yet here we are, still have these stupid exclusives just because they want to keep people to the consoles. And I don't think it works for as many people as they think it does.
No,
If I see an exclusive on a console, it doesn't make me want the console. It just
it makes you
makes
want the
me.
port. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Sony are dipping their toes in that as well. They've really slowly began porting like old games to PC. Like
Mm,
I remember like God of War and
hmm
2018, and maybe did they do Ragnarok as well? I forget. But they did
I'm
Spider-Man
not
1,
sure.
like when the
Hmm
Spider-Man 2018 game had a remaster that was on PC. And
hmm
recently they dropped Spider-Man 2 on PC, although I heard that didn't go down well. I think that was very negative. The reception to that, I think it was optimized terribly on PC. So maybe they don't care about this as much as Xbox. They seem to be half-assing a lot of their stuff. It seems to be very late, whereas Xbox is kind of really focusing on getting things on PC. Like shit, like just having PC basically be the same thing. Like they come out at the same time, and they both
And
are great.
I think that's another good reason for it, because um, I think on the topic of putting on multiple platforms, if it's an afterthought after you make the game, of course it's going to be more difficult. But if you're like Xbox and ahead of time during development, you're planning on putting this on multiple consoles, then there's a lot of decisions you can make during the development that can make it easier to translate over.
10 times easier.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, and so the fact that they're putting more emphasis on that could really help, give you higher quality ports. And man, I'm not a fan of the whole ports as
as opposed to building a game
as,
on PC.
as opposed to building it, but it's better than nothing, because I know a lot of these. I know we wouldn't get a lot of these games otherwise if it wasn't for the ports. And I hate how simplified the settings are. You can't really customize a lot
Yeah.
with the controls, the graphic, all that
You
stuff.
can tell they never intended this to be on PC every
Right,
time.
exactly. It's very much an afterthought. But the more they integrate it into the development process, the better it'll be for, well, for my side on the PC anyways.
Yeah, which is a lot
But
of people,
but really,
huge market.
but even PlayStation, you'll see better optimization if you're taking into account, that this could be played on a PlayStation console. I wouldn't know what they are because I'm no developer and I don't know much about coding or optimizations, but
Mhm.
it's something it's something that they could have ahead of PlayStation, you know, or other console makers like Switch.
Well, hopefully they are thinking about this, and the next big PlayStation games might be taking this into account, and they might drop on PC very soon, and they might be fully built for PC in general.
That'd be cool. Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Shall we move on?
All right.
There's a few more things I want to talk about. Can I really quickly go over Elden Ring Night Rain? I know you haven't played much Elden Ring, so you're probably not as interested in this as me.
I haven't played too much Elden Ring,
But
I
this,
definitely need to finish that.
yeah, but well, this might catch your eye more that because it's Elden Ring Night Rain is basically Elden Ring, but it's been streamlined and changed into kind of a like more of a standard co-op game. So co-op was is historic in the Souls franchise for just being like an afterthought and for being terrible. They
Yeah,
usually
really
come
badly
yeah,
implemented.
they usually come up with some strange canon explanation for multiplayer. Probably as an excuse for the fact that it doesn't really work, or because they don't want to do it because that's their vision for
Mm,
the game. They don't, their vision for the game is for co-op to only be like very limited for certain like for gameplay reasons or balancing reasons.
yeah.
So
Mm,
each of the actual like from socket Souls games have like a kind of really roundabout way that you have to get into to be able to play with any friends. You have to like use some consumable items like limited ones, or they lock you into certain regions. In Elden Ring, for example, if
mhm.
you try and go into another region with a friend, there'll just be like a golden wall and you can't go past. Things like that. Like they obviously don't. They obviously either don't want you to do it or they can't. They haven't thought about making that possible in development.
There's actually a really popular mod for Elden Ring on PC. There was a co-op mod,
The boundaryless
and
one.
it fixed a lot of that stuff where you don't have to resummon your friend every
Mhm.
time, and you can go to different areas with them,
It's a good mod.
and you could, even when you're dead, you could actually still watch them play.
Yeah, that's cool.
A lot of really cool fixes to co-op that you know uh, are just like kind of standard features now that really, like you said, it's such a weird way they approach it in Elden Ring. But yeah, now that they're doing something more co-op focused, that's pretty cool.
Completely
And I've
co-op
seen some
focused.
gameplay of it. Yeah, and it looks pretty sweet. It's got
Yeah,
like different classes that you
yeah.
could play, which is great because the when you have the classes, they're kind of balanced around each other.
Mhm.
Because if you just had the Elden Ring build, you'd have some
You'd
broken
have some
ass.
ridiculous shit. Yeah, you'd have
Yeah,
people with like the
crap.
20-foot tall hammers and shit. The bonk
Yeah.
builds. But
Yeah.
so it's kind of when I say it's streamlined, I mean also in terms of like if you can call it clunkiness. I don't know if I would, but just the way we expect Souls like games to feel from software, they've kind of like eliminated it. It's there's like from the gameplay, you run really fast. There seems to be like unlimited sprinting and there's clambering, so like you can jump and you'll climb up on objects that are climbable. It's like it's simple to understand, and there's no fall damage. So you really are. So you can tell just from those decisions that it's meant to be a game where you're not really caring about. You're not really having to worry about, can I get up there and will I fall down there? They obviously want. It's
Yeah,
obviously way faster
taking
paced.
taking the right path to get
Yeah.
somewhere. Yeah, that's annoying when you can just climb and get on. Yeah,
So
that helps with,
they're obviously yeah trying to let people run free a little bit.
yeah, huge mobility increase. Yeah, that's
Um,
great.
so like you said, it is class based. There's four classes. One of the classes is like a mage, and then there's like a stealth dagger, like fast dexterity build, which from what I'm hearing is the most fun one to play. And I think I'll definitely try that first because I love the dex builds, like the dex bleed builds. Every time I play those games, they're always my favorite. So I think I'll definitely be doing that. And then there's like a soldier class who is the most well balanced. Like they just have a great sword and they're kind of good at like
Hmm.
everything, like that class that's
Gotta
usually
have the
in these
great sword
games.
class. Gotta.
Yeah, and then there's a tank class, so I think it's a guy who like the fucking 20-foot hammock man will live on
Mm.
through this class.
Well, I don't know. I think tank could also be Sword and Shield, right?
From the gameplay, I think it's just someone with like a heavy weapon and they have more health.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I don't really know. I like I'm tried to find details, but I don't know if there's any like changing weapons or if you're locked to the weapons on the character. I couldn't really tell from the gameplay
From
that
what
I
I
was watching.
saw, part of the roguelike part of it is you could loot different weapons.
Yeah. So do you think it works
I
like
don't know if they changed the fighting style or anything
it
though.
looks very similar, but I think
Yeah.
what it is I think what it's going to be is say you're playing as a dexterity class, like you'll the loot that you get, you'll only be able to see like dex weapons dropped, and then you just swap them out.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
no like can I one hand this or two hand this? Like they might do that, but you just swap out whatever your dex weapon is, and you can't pick up like a hammer if you're in the dex class. I think that's how those
Mm,
games generally
mm,
work. Like in Diablo, if you're like a mage and
yeah.
you try and pick up like a hammer,
And
it won't let
Souls
you.
though, it's like they had so many different types of weapons that even within, like a one-handed sword class, there was
A
like
lot, yeah.
a lot of different move sets for, and sometimes per individual weapons. So I'm wondering if they'll do something like that, or if they'll go more safer route, like the classes have their own, move sets, and the weapons are just buffs, or
Yeah.
stats or something like that. We'll see.
Also interesting, it's a roguelike, and the way it works is I noticed that when people were flying, because you kind of fly in like fucking Fortnite. I'm not even lying, like that sounds ridiculous talking about Elden Ring, but you fly in like Fortnite on a glider, and then while you're exploring the map, you are there is like a battle royale rain circle that closes in on you while you're playing.
Hmm.
And I think, which is just funny because it's funny because Elden, because like a Souls game taking like battle royale inspiration is just a
That
universe
is
that I never
funny.
thought I'd live
Yep.
in.
Just throwing battle royale and,
It's
but
hilarious.
I feel like it could work well, especially if like you force people to fight to get stronger.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of these BR games, you just get a base amount of equipment, and then the people just keep in the circle. They they avoid fighting anyone until absolutely necessary, just so they get to the as late as circle as possible.
Yeah.
So, and the more they kind of um, enforce and reward fighting, uh, to get stronger, to win that last circle, I think the better it will be.
Yeah.
I haven't I haven't seen enough of it to know how they're going to take that on, but it could be interesting
Well, it isn't
for sure.
PvP from what I can tell.
Oh, it isn't
No,
PvP? How's it a BR without
it's not a
PvP?
BR. It's just it's just they've just taken the circle aspect and like the glider at the beginning, but you just
Uh huh.
you and like I might be completely wrong about this, but I'm pretty you might there maybe is some PvP factors. I'm sure there will be because they always find a way to like get that in. But I'm pretty sure you just the circle closes in on you and you just fight the NPCs, like the Elden Ring enemies, until you can't move anymore. And then I think there's like,
Huh.
and then I think there's like, it's really hard from the limited gameplay that's out. It's really hard to because obviously I haven't like spent hours watching it. It's really hard to figure out exactly how it works. But
Okay.
I know eventually you do get into boss fights, and then there's like a final boss. And because I've seen some screenshots of a couple of people like beating a final boss. I think you do it in multiple days. So like when you fly in, it says day one, and then you do the circle, and then you get all the loot that you can and all the XP that you can, and then you fly into somewhere else for day two, etc.
Hmm.
I think that's how it
Okay.
works. There might be PvP
All right.
involved, but I haven't seen any PvP yet in the gameplay that I watch.
All right. That's pretty cool.
Well, they may as well say fuck it and make a full battle royale since they've got made all the features. So
Yeah,
imagine.
they could. They could. I'd be surprised if someone doesn't, mod it to make it,
Ah, they probably will.
something close to that. But we'll
Yeah,
see.
that's quite funny anyway. Just one more thing to say about it. It's brings up something interesting for me because of the fact that it is like entirely an Elden Ring asset flip, and they're not. That's not like a thing that's not like a sneaky thing that they're doing. They're entirely like transparent about that. It's just an Elden Ring, but like they've rearranged the assets to kind of make a different game format, which I
Yeah.
think is fine. And it just made me think of like Tears of the Kingdom and stuff, and how this game looks like how you would actually do that. Like if you didn't want to make new assets and stuff, but you had to make a new game, I feel like this is a much better way to do it. Like change genre and make something that you feel like people who have played all these games would be like refreshing for them to see. More fast paced, less of
Have you
the
played
clunky stuff.
Deep Rock Galactic?
Yes, I love it.
So, have you heard of Survivor
Yes. DLC.
version. So yeah, well, no, it's a separate
Is it a
game.
separate game? Yeah.
Yeah, so they have like a Survivor, which is where you're just kind of like Vampire Survivor,
Mhm.
where you're just running around, avoiding or fighting mobs and just getting power ups and stuff based on how many you kill and the
Yeah.
items you pick up afterwards for killing them. And it's like, I don't want to say 100%, but probably like 80 to 90% reused assets from their other game,
Yeah.
but it's just a completely new style of
Mhm.
game. And they're able to sell it, but they're not selling it for much. I don't know, it's like $5 or $10.
Oh, really?
I got it on discount. It's really cheap. I got it on discount, so I don't know. It's not more than like $15 probably,
Yeah.
but
So
it's significantly cheaper than
yeah.
their main game. So I mean, if you change it enough, I could see it worthwhile to having to reuse assets, especially if it's based in the same universe and it's got the same characters, same enemies. Like it doesn't make sense to have to remake it for all that. But yeah, just the fact they're doing it as DLC is pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's a
So,
that's cool for that game because it's like you're getting the gameplay loop and the combat of Deep Rock
mhm,
Galactic, but without having to actually play normal Deep Rock Galactic. Probably seems like
mhm,
something you can get into just to shoot shit. That makes sense.
mhm.
So that's
I
nice.
didn't like it was single player only, but I guess that's kind of
It's
the
single
point of
player
a
only.
survival. Yeah,
Oh, I was envisioning it with like the boys.
yeah, I thought it'd be too, but
Yeah.
it probably breaks the game or something because they
Yeah.
didn't
Oh well, like you said,
keep
it's
it
like
in
5 or
mind. But
10 pounds, dollars. So
it's still a great kind of mindless game to just kind of play and watch numbers go up, and you know,
yeah,
kind of reminds me of those hack and slash games where you can just turn off your brain and just click and watch things die. Although in this one, you don't really need to click; you just kind of aim,
yeah.
move, and aim.
Deep Rock Galactic is a fun game. Or I love the like digging through the entire fucking map and shit like that.
That's great. That's such
Yeah,
an awesome mechanic. And each of the classes have a different, one of them literally just digs through, one of them sets up platforms, and the other one can just like grapple hook
I think
around.
I like the turret guy.
Uh, yeah. 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 Engineer's fun.
Yeah,
They really made each of the classes really enjoyable, and they contributed you know, to the team effort
yeah. I love that in them. I
and the
love that in
graphic
them co-op
style.
games where it's the best thing where you have a co-op game and everyone's doing their part. Like
Hmm.
each class is balanced. It's great. It's the best thing.
Yeah, it's cool. They really did a good job on it.
I have a couple of miscellaneous topics. If you want to get into one of
Yeah.
those,
All right.
I kind of lost track of what order I wanted to say things in. But do you have any that come to your mind, like your favorite controversial moment in a game? Not maybe not it not like literally inside a game, but either inside a game or just relating to games in general. Because I think it's such a funny topic.
I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's definitely one of the funnier ones. Was I think it was GTA Vice City. One of the GTA's came out, and there was and it wasn't until later in the games, after the game was released, that they found files inside the game. Um, it was referred to as a hot coffee or something like that. And they found files in the game having to do with like simulated sex scenes or something like that. It wasn't in the game; it was just in the
Okay.
game files.
Like a left
And like
behind
people,
thing or
yeah, like a left behind thing, or a gag that just accidentally got left in there. And like people were freaking out, like, "Oh my god, there's a sex simulator!" And they're like, "But you have to go in and actually dig up these files."
like not available
And
in the game, like
no,
behind the
no,
scenes.
yeah, it was like deep inside the files, and like people were like in an uproar over that. But
What the fuck?
it wasn't even in the game. I just remember thinking, "What the fuck?" Like these are people who are just looking for something to get outraged over, you know?
GTA is full of that. GTA is
Mhm,
like the flagship for people like boomers who want to take down games. It's
mhm.
always GTA. I don't know if it's because it's the most popular or just because it's known for like just because it's known for its fuckery or just because it or just
It's been a pretty edgy game for
yeah.
as long as it's
Yeah.
existed. Like, literally from the start, you were just some hooligan who was just stealing cars, killing people, running over pedestrians. It's like, who are we teaching our children? And then they just leaned into it more. It's like, okay, now you can get hookers and can
Yeah.
join, crime crime families and all this
Strip clubs
crap.
and shit.
So, yep, strict clubs
Yeah.
and all that jazz.
GTA 5 was kind of a GTA 5 was way less serious than 4 though. Am I correct? Like just in terms of like the tone.
I didn't get much into 4. I played a bunch of 3, and I played some Vice City, but 4 I wasn't very much into. But
I think the
I
tone
feel
of
like
4
5,
is a little bit more
yeah,
serious.
5 they definitely leaned more into the characters and that it was great they had the multiple main characters too, which was cool.
Yeah, 5 is a great game. GTA is
Mhm.
also like I think the main thing it catches controversy for is just because the one of the big selling points of GTA is the fact that you can just go around and fuck around. Like back in the day, my like it was GTA was so cool to me because it was a game where you could like go and walk inside like shops and stores and gyms and like restaurants and stuff, even though like you didn't need to. It was just there for like
Mhm.
set dressing.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's cool. Like that's really that's like that makes the world feel more alive and it makes you feel like you're actually just walking around a place that's real.
I think that's one of the reasons why it's so popular is because they did such a good job in recreating this city that doesn't exist,
Yeah.
and yet that has all these nuances. It's almost like they based it on a real city because every house you drive by looks like it could be a house used in at a mission in some point of the game.
Yeah.
Like they didn't just set a whole bunch of blank walls with doors, unopenless doors everywhere. They made it look very convincingly real, which is probably why they love the RP community is eating it up.
Yeah.
But
The RP
uh,
community
it,
added when I've watched like role playing streams, they add like their own. I don't know if Rockstar does this or if the RP modders do this, but they add like buildings and stuff. Like
really,
they add interiors and they add different places you can go to. I don't know if that was added by GTA Online because I never played much GTA Online. But what yeah, I
hmm
see people doing the role play and they're like going inside police stations and like the jails and shit, and you put like you put like the players in the jail cells and shit, and the jail like fully operates. Just things like that, like and like movie
wow,
theaters that fully operate, and like talent shows that fully operate with like auditioning
that
booths and
that
stuff.
feels like modded stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
definitely sounds like
hilarious.
modded stuff.
Yeah, so they lean into that even more, which is kind of what's so great about GTA. But on the flip side of that, which is where I was going with the controversy, is that whereas you can just walk into a restaurant just because it's cool, you can also walk into restaurants and just fucking shoot everyone, which
hmm
catches the attention of the media who probably don't play any games. Um, and because of that, GTA catches a lot of flack. Basically, every time a new GTA game releases, it's under fire for making kids more violent, or for just generally making the population more violent.
Luigi Maglione, am I
Yeah, that
saying
I know
that?
that
Have you
guy.
heard? Have you
Yeah.
heard about? So after he committed, the assassination of that one CEO.
CEO of the
Yeah,
healthcare company.
a lot of the media companies that, well, of course, they started digging into his past and stuff, and they found, oh my God, he's been playing this game where
No way, I didn't
the
know
whole
this.
point is to be an assassin, and it's like, whoa,
Don't tell me it's
what? What
Hitman.
the hell are they talking about? Nope, nope, it's even worse. It was Among Us.
You're kidding.
Yeah. No, I'm not. I'm
No
not. They're
way.
like, they play a game where you go around being an assassin. And your point is to kill the other players. And it's like, it's fucking Among Us, dude. Like, everybody knows it. Your 5-year-old knows this game better than
Even
you do.
Hitman would have been funny because Hitman's the game where you like knock people off balconies by throwing a banana at their head and shit.
Yeah.
Among
It's
Us.
worse than
Among
that.
Us.
Worse than that. It was such a reach. Uh,
That's the best
that
example of that I've ever seen. That's hilarious. Among
okay.
Us.
You can't turn off my monitor.
Oh my goodness.
That's not feng shui. Yeah. So anytime the media can, it will jump on games as any excuse. As far back as Doom, I remember they were doing that.
Yeah. No,
So,
I've read stories about Doom 2, Doom 2 coming under fire for I
mhm,
don't know, maybe some guy did something and they found like Doom 2 on the computer and they're like Doom 2, this is it everyone, Doom 2. Doom 2 is
mhm.
brainwashing our population.
Yeah, yeah. Duke Nukem, I remember that got a
Duke
lot of
Nukem and
flack.
they lent into that hard as well.
Mhm, mhm. So at just point any point in time, they were playing against for it. Thank God they didn't actually get anywhere with that besides, some of the ESRB crap that they put out, which it makes sense that you wouldn't wanna market adult games to kids and stuff.
Mhm.
So that's fine. But, the whole, like, PG and G things with games is really blurry as far as,
It is
what
very
goes into
blurry.
that. But, thankfully, they didn't get as harsh as, like, Germany, which just outright bans a lot of, different games. I've heard they've
Really?
been pretty hardcore about. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's some games that are just not available in Germany because they go against, whatever. Um, I think what I can think of is a lot of the Wolfenstein games,
Oh, because of
because
the Nazi inclusion?
yeah, because they're Nazi. Even though the whole point of the game is you're killing Nazis,
Yeah.
they're really strict about that. To you, no, not even the mention of it, So, and
Yeah,
then
so
Australia was kind of like that too. They had banned quite a few games that were
I've heard of
like
Australia being particularly bad. Yeah.
was GTA 5 one of the ones they
Y
banned?
I
They
think
banned some,
it was either
yeah,
banned or they, like, eventually got it after some trial and tribulation. I don't remember.
yeah,
Imagine being imagine you're excited for GTA and then it just gets banned.
yeah. And I heard Balatro
The gambling
was
game?
recently no, yeah, the gambling game. Well,
The
here's it's a
gambling
poker
game?
game.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's I don't oh, okay, you were joking.
Well, because it resembles poker, I can imagine companies being sorry, countries being like, we don't like our kids
Yeah,
gambling.
yeah. I can imagine if you never played the game and it's like, "Oh, it's a poker video game." It's like, "Oh, okay, yeah." So it's but you don't actually,
No, no
there's
money
no, like,
involved.
monetary yeah, yeah. So it's okay for Overwatch to do their loot crate BS when they were doing that with Overwatch 1, but, Balatro isn't.
Ooh,
It feels so
I'm gonna write down another
yeah.
controversy I just remembered.
Oh, the loot boxes?
Yeah, but something. Yeah, basically a tangent to loot boxes. But I think
Well, Overwatch 2 was thinking of bringing them back. Have you heard that?
that is something we haven't covered yet that we need to cover because that is very funny. Because that is like that games are either really struggling or something to do with live service really isn't working when a
Mhm.
big reveal is that loot boxes are coming back.
Is a monetization as
Yeah.
predatory as loot boxes.
They like put it out there like loot boxes are back as well, like not like sliding it under the radar. They were trying to like get people hyped about the fact that loot boxes are back, which I thought was hilarious.
It's one of the worst forms of monetization in a game because and I haven't played any of those gotcha games, so that could easily be the worst. But just the fact that, like, if there's a skin in the game that you really actually want, but it's not available because you have to gamble for it,
Hmm.
that seems like such a terrible. There's actually a few skins in Overwatch that I'd actually paid money for. Maybe not as much as they want to charge me for it,
Okay.
but I was actually interested in. But I couldn't get them because the only way to get them was to buy loot boxes and hope you got it from a loot box. And what a terrible system that is.
Do you
You
mean
know?
do you mean certain skins were just exclusive to loot boxes?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I was confused
I don't know
if
if
you were
they
trying
were.
to say that you had to get them in a loot box and then pay for them, which is something I'll talk about
No,
later. But
no,
I
no,
wasn't
no,
sure if
no.
that's
You,
what you
you
were
had,
saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
you had to get them from a loot box
Yeah.
because you weren't able
Yeah.
to get them otherwise. And then they changed it to where you could. They made almost not all of them, but a lot of the skins purchasable with the currency from that you naturally generate from the game
Hmm.
and not the paid for currency. But the rate that you get that currency is
So
just
slow.
so
Hmm.
low. Just going back to Helldivers, it was such a great system they had where you could buy everything with currency you got from the game, and it was slow, but it wasn't like so impossible to do.
It
You
was
felt like you were
achievable.
actually able. It was achievable, and you were actually able to get stuff and enjoy it, and it was a very good balance, And I still bought a few of the packs, more so anything just to help support them.
Yeah.
But
No,
it was a great system.
a lot of people could afford like the current battle passes, like whenever they came out, just from having played the game previously, like in the previous season in Helldivers 2. You do have to play it a lot, like you have to be a bit of a sweat. But the point is, for a lot of people, it was achievable. It wasn't just completely
Mm,
unrealistic to the point where you'd have to put some money toward it. Like a lot of people, I
yeah.
think a lot of people don't pay for any Helldivers passes because they play the game so
Mm,
much,
yeah.
which proves that it's obviously somewhat doable. It's not absolutely
Yeah,
ridiculous.
and it rewards people for playing the game.
It does
Like, imagine that.
helps
If you
out the
play
live
the game enough,
service.
then yeah, then there you go. It's great. And then if you don't play the game enough, but you want them, if you really want them, then you can buy them. It's a good option to have. But just and then it wouldn't be so bad if the prices were just so absurd. Like seeing skins for a game nowadays that cost easily like a half or even as much as the game cost, like $20-$30 skins for a skin for
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
hilarious.
uh, it's sad if anything, because there's people out there who buy them. That's the thing, that's the whole reason they exist, because people buy them
Yeah,
and
and
they'll pay that price.
one of the worst things. This is like a big Call of Duty thing and like Fortnite and stuff as well. I don't remember if I've mentioned this on a previous episode, so if I have, just bear with me. But when they want to sell a skin or like multiple skins in a bundle, but they want to justify making the price a little bit steep, so they force you to buy this bundle, but they'll put things like stickers or like poses and voice lines in the bundle.
Hmm.
And then they'll be like, well, that just took the bundle from $20 to $35. Look at all these stickers. Look at all these pretty stickers and these
Hmm.
poses. How are you gonna?
Yeah.
How can you complain? Look at all this stuff you're getting. Look at the value. Terrible. Call of Duty do that all the time. You can't just pick a skin and buy it. You're going straight to the bundle. Ugh, makes me shiver.
Yeah, it's so dumb. And what's unfortunate is they're aiming for these people who, the whales,
The
who
whales.
are the top percent of the buyers
Hmm.
of these, who always buy multiple of the skins, or multiple purchases. I mean, they don't just buy one thing; they'll buy several things. They'll buy a bunch of the currency. They're the majority of what makes the money from that. But if they made them more affordable, they'd sell more of them. Uh, but they have to put it on such a painful price point for most people, just because of those few people who will scoop them all up
Hmm.
en masse. It's really sad, but I blame mobile games for that. They really started that trend,
They did, and they were
and
successful, and that's why it was
and they were
poached.
successful, and that's why it's yeah.
Yeah. But on the topic of horrible microtransaction implementations, back to the most controversial game moments. This is kind of a
Mm,
this is a moment. It was more of a situation. Do you remember the 2017, I want to say, Battlefront 2 release?
yep.
And do you remember the controversy surrounding the loot boxes in that?
Yeah, what are they? Star cards or
Star
something?
cards. Yeah, they had loot
Yeah.
boxes that would include star cards, and these star
Hmm.
cards were just direct gameplay buffs. Like
Yeah.
no smoke and mirrors
Actual,
around it.
literal
Yeah.
pay to win
Actual like just mask
in
off
in
pay to
in
win.
the game.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
And the at the forefront of that was this situation with the heroes. So do you remember
Yeah.
back in the original Battlefront 1 and 2 games, you just had to, if you were in an individual match, if you did pretty well, they'd be like, "Oh, you want to play as Kenobi? You want to play as Kenobi?
Yep.
You want to play as
Yeah.
Kenobi? Just click the button and you'll play as Kenobi."
Hmm.
Which was a cool system, and I
Yeah.
loved that in the original Battlefront games.
Yeah. Rewarded
EA
you for
had
doing good.
EA had different ideas. EA had some slightly different ideas. So to play as Darth Vader in 2017's Battlefront 2, you had to either put down, I believe, $80 of US dollar
Uh-huh.
to unlock the credits to pay for that, to like the
Mm,
they were either like credits or crystals or some shit or whatever it was to flip to pay for
mm,
Darth Vader. You could also just get those credits in the loot boxes, so pay for the loot boxes or whatever it was. Or if you wanted to unlock him naturally, Darth Vader, the main character of the franchise to play as in the game, you'd have to commit 40 hours on estimate of be like in-game time, like 40 hours of getting XP to be able to play as Darth Vader.
Mm,
It
yeah.
was horrible. There was absolute just hell.
You know
It
much
was
about Diablo Immortal?
the mobile game?
Yeah.
No.
So their system was yeah, I don't know if it's gotcha based or something. It's where you had to hope to get like a certain star level from the loot you got, and hope that you got the maximum star level to get the best gear. And I think it's some European regulations where you have to disclose the percentage chance you have to win
Oh
any
god.
given item.
Oh
And
god.
so someone took that information and they made a simulator of their system,
Mhm,
their purchase loot box, whatever system they had,
mhm.
and they found out in order to get just one of like the highest ranked
Oh
items,
no.
it
I'm
took
cringing already.
something like $10,000 to $30,000 or something
Oh, I remember this.
ridiculous.
I remember
Yeah,
this. Yeah.
yeah,
I remember that number just
yeah.
refreshed my memory.
Mhm.
Oh
Yeah,
my
it was
god.
absurd, absolutely absurd.
That puts Battlefront 2 to shame. Like to
Mm,
shame. Oh
yeah,
my god.
it was bad.
Is that the same Diablo Immortal of the don't you guys have phones? Don't you guys have
Yep,
phones? Is
that's
that
it,
thing?
that's the one. Yeah,
Because
mhm,
that should be on the list as well. I completely forgot that was hilarious. Because weren't am I correct in saying that people were expecting the Diablo 4 announcement at the time?
mhm.
And then
Oh, yeah, so, yeah, keeping Blizzard in mind, one of my favorite controversial moments was they brought up, WoW Classic at one of the BlizzCons, because it was super popular that people were running their own private servers of World of Warcraft just so they could play the classic version because retail had become such a bloated version of the game.
I remember this time.
And
Yeah.
so and so I think someone brought it up at one of the Q&A events at BlizzCon, and the quote was, "You guys think you know what you want, but you don't," you
No
know?
way.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't say that. You
Yeah,
can't say that.
yeah, not more than, like, what, maybe a year or 2 later, they announced the announcement of WoW Classic, and here we are, I think it's actually more popular, their Classic, than their current retail
Since it
version.
came out, I've only played Classic just because I just it was unless you're playing WoW all the time, I don't think you could keep up with what was going on with the continuous updates in the live service. WoW Classic was so refreshing because
Mm,
you just know what you're getting into, right? So it
yeah.
absolutely deserves to be more successful. But that you think you know what you want, but you don't. That's
Mhm.
like t-shirt material. That's just horrific.
Yeah, yeah. The customer is wrong. Get the fuck out.
Just really quickly diving back to Battlefront 2 because I wanted to say one more thing on it because
Yeah.
this kind of is the icing on the cake for that whole situation. Do you
Mhm.
know what the most downvoted comment on Reddit is?
Oh, yes, yes. The sense of entitlement post from EA,
Yes,
or from,
kind of.
was it EA?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but I mean, as long as you're thinking of the same thing as me, basically, there was a really popular Reddit thread started by someone saying, like, "Do I seriously have to pay $80 to play as Darth Vader, or is this some kind of fucking sick joke?" That was
Yeah,
basically
yeah,
the
yeah.
gist of the post, and it was a very successful
Mhm.
post. EA commented on it, basically saying the reason for it to take such a long time was that they wanted that they wanted the players to feel a sense of accomplishment, which is
Accomplishment, that's the
just
word.
that's
A
yeah, is that
sense of
what you were thinking of?
accomplishment, yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I was thinking
which
of.
is
I didn't
just
know the right word
hilarious
they used.
because
Yeah.
it if someone pays $80 for it, are they feeling accomplished?
A
Like
set of accomplishment.
sense of accomplishment, and that
Sense of
Reddit
accomplishment.
comment as we speak right now is sitting on 680,000 downvotes,
Wow.
which
Yeah.
is like oh my god, that is a huge amount of fucking people. The amount of people who made the conscious decision to press downvote on that post,
Mm.
680,000. That's just to show how like influential and how big this controversy was. It's fucking
Yeah, that's pretty
unbelievable.
bad. Yeah.
Um, I have two more, if you don't mind.
Mhm.
The first one is probably quick. We might have talked about this like off recording before, but do you know anything about the Tarkov controversy, like as of the last year or two?
Maybe.
Or maybe we didn't. But basically, this goes back to just like demanding just insane amounts of money. But this is probably this is another one that's just very mask off anti-consumer. So basically, you know what Escape from Tarkov is, right? I don't know if you played it,
Yeah.
but you know what it is, how it
A
works.
little, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Basically, fans for a long time were asking for a way to play the game, but without PvP. So, just imagine going around Tarkov, like killing getting all the loot, getting good guns, killing the NPCs, and then going back to base and not worrying about players. It would still be hard, but it was something that I would play, and it was something that fans were asking for a really long time.
Mhm.
But just put that aside for a second, because like in the early days of Tarkov, they announced like an edition that I think cost $100, and they said that if you buy this edition, you
Oh,
you
yep.
will receive all DLC in the future for free.
Mhm.
They
I
wrote
heard
that.
of
They
this.
said that
Yep.
it was
Mhm.
undeniable. It was
Yep.
undebatable.
Mhm.
But then many years down the line, this was a year. This was either 2024, 2023, a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
They released oof, the name is blanking on me right now. It was called like the Unheard Edition. Oh god, fuck knows. I don't know. They released
Yeah,
a
doesn't
new
matter.
edition and it was $200. It was $200 to buy, and one of the things that it included was single player. They included they added a single player DLC into the
Mhm.
$200 edition, and the people who paid for the original $100 DLC were not allowed it. They went back on their word. They changed their mind.
Yeah, I remember this.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it was just absolute chaos. And gladly, I haven't heard a peep from Escape from Tarkov since that controversy, because I think a lot of people stopped playing it because of this.
Yeah. And I remember their excuse was, "Well, it's not technically DLC. It was a
Yeah,
big patch update."
big
And
patch
people were
update.
like, "Oh, bullshit. Play on
It
words."
had content in it. That's downloadable content.
Yeah, it's content that you download. It's literally the
Yeah,
definition of DLC. And how scummy, man.
horrible.
Like, especially if you're selling something that gives them all this content,
There was another funny thing included as well. It was either if you paid for that $200 DLC, or it was something that you could just get another way. But they added an item where you could, if you had access to this like expensive item, you could, in the middle of a raid, you could Doctor Strange portal your friends into the raid with you.
really.
Yeah. So imagine you're in a fight with a guy and you think you got the edge on him, and then he just
Mhm.
gets out his fucking sling ring, and all his pals come through in full gear and shit on you.
Mm,
That was
yeah,
it. That was the thing
no
they
fun.
included in that same update, and it
Mm,
also made stream sniping way worse. That game has like a pretty big streaming community, but now,
uh-huh.
if you're stream sniping, if you're all in Discord and you go in, oh, I'm not in his lobby, I'm not in his lobby. Anyone get in the lobby? And some guy's like, yeah, I'm in it. Opens the Doctor Strange portal. All the stream sniper pals are in the lobby. So yeah, like how is there any other way you could destroy a game? I think that's the most you could destroy a game. It's like it was deliberate sabotage.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, so that's a big one.
It feels like it goes against the whole style of the game,
Like the realistic
It
style of the game.
yeah, yeah. It doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, weird one.
Hmm.
I have one more. It's gonna be quick though. That I just remembered on the fly while we were talking about loot boxes. Do you remember? Have you ever played CS:GO? Do
Yeah.
you remember the CS:GO gambling situation?
Which one?
Well, at one time there was just a huge rise. Well, they still exist, but the gambling websites where you'd go to a third party site and you would do a roulette, and you'd get like a case
Oh,
or a good item.
they had third-party sites doing the roulette,
Yeah,
really?
yeah, no, no, not official.
Oh,
Like people
wow.
were doing this
Oh, wow.
themselves.
I didn't heard about this, no.
Yeah, well, that's still a thing. That's not the main part of the controversy. I'm pretty sure that's still a thing. Maybe I think countries banned it, but I'm pretty sure, like as of right now, that you're still allowed to do that. But basically, what that meant is the people in charge of the websites could obviously just do whatever the fuck they wanted with the odds, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, technically under legal gambling sites, you're supposed to have a certain, you know,
yeah.
disclosed odds and you're supposed to keep by it, but there's no regulations for in-game items. So
Well, yeah, and
wow,
this kind of opened a lot of people's eyes to how we should look at in-game items as far as gambling goes, especially like
yeah.
actual politicians and stuff who don't understand how any of this works. That was probably very confusing. But one particular controversy surrounding that was that a really big YouTuber called the Syndicate Project and another really like huge YouTuber called T Martin. Have you heard of T Martin?
No.
It's more my time when I was little, like a Let's Play YouTuber. But they were both really big into the CS:GO gambling at one point, and they made their own CS:GO gambling website. It was called CS Lotto, maybe. They all have the
Hmm.
same, like, ooh, CS gambling, Lotto Go, CS. They all have the same, like, like bait names. And they made one, but the most important factor is that they never disclosed with any viewers that they owned the website. But
Really?
and they both started to promote the website as if they'd found it. Like they were like, "Hey guys,
Oh
CS
man.
Lotto reached out to me. They want to sponsor this episode, so head on down to CS Lotto." And then they would do that, and then they would fuck with the odds. They fucked with the odds themselves, and
Mm.
it was just a huge scam. It was basically the equivalent of a crypto scam, probably.
Wow.
Yeah,
Probably, yeah.
and it came out eventually when people started to realize that the odds were a bit fucky, and people did some research into the website and found that the names on the ownership of the property were the names of the streamers,
Mm.
and then and then
Wow.
and then it all came to head, and there was a big
Did they
controversy.
did they ever get like that sounds like it may violate some laws or something. They ever get busted for that or is it
They
it
may
just
have
kind of
been
went away?
they may have been busted privately, but like
Hmm.
publicly, it kind of just went away. They're both still very successful YouTubers, and
Oh wow.
one or two of them have been involved in other scandals as well. But
Jeez, man.
yeah, I feel like either no one understood how bad it was, so there wasn't really a big press, or they had some like insane lawyers.
Yeah, I mean a lot of that stuff is legal, like crypto scams. You think it'd be illegal, but no,
No.
apparently they're completely legal.
Well, there's
Um
loopholes
uh,
to make sure it's legal, yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I mean we our own president did a crypto scam or two.
He certainly did.
Like it's wild how literally anyone the Hawk Tua girl
The Hawk Tour
did her
girl,
own scam,
crypto
crypto
scam, yeah.
scam. It's ridiculous how many people are able to get away with it.
Yeah,
But
they're not illegal. I
if you
think
have
I think
enough
the problem
popularity.
is they just rely on stupidity, right? Like
Oh yeah, yeah. Naivety and just not knowing how it works and trust is another
trust.
thing.
Yeah. Because as long as someone
Like you're
volunteers
like,
to do it,
hey,
you're not.
look, other people are scamming, but look, this is my coin,
Yeah.
like
This is
we're gonna
mine.
do something with
This
this,
one's gonna be
you
good.
know, believe in me, this is because I wouldn't scam you guys, right? I mean,
Yeah, there's been so many as well. Like it's basically an influencer check mark now that you have to have one.
mhm, yeah, it's it's wild, but someone should make a game about crypto scams or something.
Crypto simulator.
Crypto scam simulator or something. Feels like there's a market for that. And
That
then
would
you
be
can make a
funny.
coin come out of the game. That would be huge. Base a coin on the game and then actually rug pull with it.
And it turns out that you were actually doing it like it was marketed as a simulator, but you were actually just running a crypto farm for someone
Somebody
else.
somebody somebody who did a lot of parodies actually made a crypto coin as a parody. Like and they did a rug pull with it. And
Yeah.
like they got into a lot of shit because it's like, no, you actually did an actual rug pull. And he's like, "Oh no, it's just a parody." And like on all his responses are really canned corporate responses, like, "We believe in the
Oh my
integrity of the
god.
coin." It's just like
That's
he
kind of
was
smart
just
though.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's brilliant because he made money off of it, and then apparently it's legal. And but the people who fell for it were absolutely worse than the actual crypto scam
Yeah,
buyers,
like come
because they
on.
knew from the start this would be a rug pull, and they still put
And
money
at,
in.
at some point you have to
So
put the money in, right? So whenever you're putting money into something, you should be thinking a little bit harder. That's just
yeah,
kind of how
but
I see it.
thinking and putting money in usually. I mean, they should go hand in hand, but oftentimes,
They do not.
well, that's why these DLC, that's why these monetization ones work in a lot of these games. So
Yeah.
they rely on that.
Are there any other really bad like micro DLC implementations you can think of
That I can think of,
off the top of your head?
just in general, like the gameplay ones, like, and for mobile games, I heard that there's a lot of games where you just can't play, like, as much as you want because you have to buy time
Oh yeah,
or
well
buy
that's
the
so like accepted now that it's almost not even like no one cares at this point. It's just so it's
mm.
so standard.
That's it's one of the worst because you
Yeah.
you can't even because being gated from a lot of the stuff in the game, but still able to play the game for free, is one thing. Because at least you're still able to play the game for free. Sure, you don't have the best whatever, and there's some content you're missing it, but you can still play the base game. But not even being able to play the base game without paying money, that is such a scam.
And those
That's
games
one of
have a
the
lot of
worst ones I
players
could
too.
think of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're so
apparently.
popular. So
Yeah,
popular.
yeah.
Everyone's got a phone,
But
right? So like, it makes sense on some level.
yeah, just any form of pay to win. What was the one where you have armies and stuff? King Crash or Clash of Kings
Clash
or
of Clans.
Clash of Clans,
Got there
something
in Clash of
like
Clans.
there's so many clones of that game. I don't even know what the original one
It's a
is
genre
anymore.
now,
But
I guess. Yeah.
yeah, it is, and they all have the guy, the icon of the guy yelling,
Yeah.
for the icon.
Mobile games get away with
But
a lot of copyright infringement. Have you seen the memes of
yeah.
games that are like Call of Battlefield
Yep.
Warfare Advanced
Yep.
Fortnite?
Literally like actual assets from the game and screenshots that they just rip directly
Just
off
some
it.
of the titles
Yeah,
are
and they
funny.
sell it.
They will treat the titles like YouTube hashtags. The title of the game on the App Store will be like Call of Battlefield, Battlefront, Fortnite, Halo Gaming, the game.com. Those are like there's
Yeah.
a ton of memes of those games, and the picture is just like a guy with a gun, like a soldier with a gun.
If I wasn't afraid of getting malware, or I'd actually try those games out.
I
But
mean, they
I'm
might be
pretty
safe
sure
because I'm
there's
pretty sure app stores have to, secure those things. Maybe I don't know. I don't fucking know anything about mobile games. I've never played a mobile game in my life.
but I don't know, sketchy stuff.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you'd probably have to pay for them, and I wouldn't
No,
even as a joke. Maybe if I had a channel that was all about that, I'd do it. But
Raid Shadow Legends is also a bad one.
oh yeah, yeah, and the ads for that are ridiculous.
They're funny though, right?
Yeah.
I think that's another kind of pay for, you know, stop doing this until you pay money. Maybe not time, but just other things like
Mhm.
just quality of life is like it's the reverse of quality of life. It's quality of nothing. Like you pay if you want to do anything at all. You pay to breathe oxygen every few minutes.
Mm.
They were in terms of like you said, the worst ones are actually things that like directly affect the game, like when you're playing the game, like
Mm.
microtransactions that affect that. And I told you about this before, but not on the podcast. And the worst one of the worst ones that I can, I can't say worst one, but I don't think it could get worse than Battlefront 2. But one of the worst ones was Halo 5. I
Mhm.
think I've told you about this one privately before, but that was one that went under the radar, I think, because probably just Halo 5 was a dead game that no one played more than like a few days.
Yeah.
Basically, they had this system called the rec system, which was just their name for the loot boxes. And their loot
Mm.
boxes would include like really, 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 really good guns. Like it was one of those games that had like, green, blue, purple, gold variants of guns. But if you didn't pay, you'd just have like the standard grey guns and stuff. And you'd go in the loot boxes and you'd get either like, like green, purple, whatever guns, or you'd get like abilities. And you would in the game you would go to like a device called like a rec terminal or a rec computer or whatever, and you'd pick any of the items that you own. So if you paid loads of money, there'd just be a screen of like, oh, you want 2 times speed, here's 2 times speed. Oh, you want 5 times melee damage, here's 5 times. You want a one shot, you want like a one shot assault rifle, no, the one shot assault rifle. And
Mm.
you just pick them. And if you had paid tons of money, you'd just be a 5 times speed demon with an energy sword that could snipe people across the map. You were basically
Wow.
just a god from paying money.
That's terrible.
One of the worst ones I've
Yeah.
ever had experience with.
Literal pay to win. Any sort of pay to win is probably the worst. But pay just to play, I think is pretty close as well.
Well, I think pay to play has to be objectively the worst, but that's like so, like I said, that's so just like everyone knows that already to the point where it's just not even interesting anymore. It's just something that shouldn't exist and should not be allowed, but it just is. And until it isn't, everyone just has
Mm.
to deal with it. Luckily it's just mobile games mainly. So And
Hopefully
free
it
to play
stays that
game,
way.
yeah, and free to play games always catch it the worst. Obviously, free to play is used
Hmm.
as a excuse to shove the microtransactions down your throat. That's why every time you see a free to play game is a red flag. As soon as Halo
Yeah,
Infinite
I
said,
don't I don't mind if they're cosmetic. It doesn't impact anything,
"Yeah,
you know. And as long as they don't like shove it in your face, you know, I hate all the store update pop-ups and
oh, the
crap like
pop
that.
ups,
Yeah,
yeah,
but the second in Plax gameplay, you know. Yeah, me too, Kitty.
yeah, shit, isn't it, kitty?"
Hmm.
Well, I think that's all the controversies I wanted to talk about. I just thought that would be funny. Um, Maybe if
Yeah,
we think of some other ones in more in future
I'm sure
episodes,
they'll
we come
come
back
up.
to
I'm
it.
sure they'll come up.
But those are
Yeah.
funny. I love talking about those. Something I could go on about for hours.
Mm.
I sit and listen to like 2 hour long YouTube videos about these things. Hilarious. Another
They're
little
fun to
random
listen to.
tangent. Yeah, another little random tangent. Like best or worst game adaptations. Well, and I'd say game adaptations because I mean like shows and movie. I know there's some shows are becoming popular recently, but there's some movies that are floating about as well.
Hmm.
Do you have any favorites?
Mm, I mean, they've all been so bad.
Do you think they've all been bad?
I think games to movies have just been, well, first of all, movies to games have just traditionally been pretty awful. There's a few that haven't, but in general, they're just low quality kind of cash grabs. But movie to games, I mean, games to movies, they've almost all been just absolutely terrible. I think the Mario movie was one of the few ones that like wasn't atrocious. It was just kind of
The
average.
new one, right?
The new one, yeah,
Not the
but
old one.
not the old one. Man, that was one of the disappointments. Imagine being like a 10-year-old kid or something when that one came out and just like, what the fuck is this? It's just completely off the wall. I mean, people looking back, you know, they're like, "Oh, it was actually a trend." And I can look back and still say, "Yeah, it was kind of a 80s, no, it wasn't even an 80s. It was kind of a 90s movie. It was kind of a period piece in a way,
It was, but
but
it's just
it was still
Mario
awful. It
is a
was
weird it's a strange subject to make a period piece on. But
yeah.
is that's the one where everyone's a human, right? Like including Bowser and the Koopas, the Goombas, they're all people, like humans.
They're humanoid. Like the Goombas were like these very human looking guys with like very small dinosaur looking heads and
What?
the big human bodies.
Yeah.
It was so odd. Yeah. And then Yoshi was like an actual little dinosaur. it was it looked like the parodies that people make when they make like ultra realistic versions of video games.
Yeah.
It actually looked like that. So
Yeah, like the AI,
yeah, not
AI Mario and Luigi. That's kind of
yep.
what it looks like.
Pretty yeah. Yeah, it does.
Apparently it's a good so
So
bad it's good movie though.
I've heard that, but having being disappointed by a kid, it just it stings just to see it. Like I get it. It's got a certain cheesiness to it
Yeah.
that's kind of charming, but I guess I had better expectations when I saw it, and it still hurts to see that and be like, man, they could have actually done something with this that wasn't so campy,
Like
but it exists.
the current Mario movie is quite good. I watched it for the first time a couple of weeks ago.
Hmm.
It's sort of like I know people who think it's like the best movie ever. I wasn't huge on it. But in terms of capturing the essence of Mario, it's really good. You know, all the visual effects are great. It's funny. The people who did Mario and Luigi were great. I don't know. I wasn't like it wasn't after I watched it. I think maybe I went in with too high expectations, but after I watched it, I was a bit like, eh,
Well, that's just it. Being a meh like game to movie is like the best.
best case
You
scenario.
know, that's probably like the best game or the best game to movie ever is the Mario movie, and it's just like a kind of movie. You know, that's where the bar is because there's just so many terrible ones. Like the Halo one was
God,
awful. Oh,
God.
garbage. Anything Uwe Boll did, you know,
Oh, I
waste
kept
of film.
when I was reading up this topic, I kept hearing about that. Whatever you just said, what is that?
He's a director who made like a couple of uh, game to movies. Like I think one of them was Postal,
Oh,
maybe.
Postal. Yeah, I read about Postal being really bad as
Just
well.
a Yeah, he was just a very trashy director. So and he did a lot of games as because I'm used to seeing movies on make games, and the games are cash grabs. But he actually did the opposite. He did the games into movies that were just cash grabs. So, yeah, they were just very low quality. I can't even recall which ones he worked on, but they were all absolutely
Postal's one that the one that I saw when I
terrible.
was looking.
And
Yeah,
not even like so bad it's good, just
just shit.
bad, bad, bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolute bad. Um,
There's news
but
about. Sorry, go ahead.
I heard good things about the Fallout show. I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, I've watched it. It's one of them that maybe has soured on me a little bit since after it came out. But when I at the time I was watching it, I thought it was great. It's like what I just said about the Mario movie. The fact that it's has great visual effects, it doesn't shit on the canon, and it kind of it has the like the vibe and the look and the art design and the weapons and the characters looking perfect. That's like the
Mhm,
best case scenario for an adaptation. So it's probably their best adaptation just by those very brief check marks. It's a if you want to watch if you like Fallout and you want to watch some Fallout in live action without just constantly being stressed about like, oh, what the fuck are they doing to the canon? Oh, what the fuck is this? What the fuck is that? Then Fallout's perfect because it's really quite safe, quite safe, fun adventure set in the Fallout universe with great
mhm.
visual effects, great casting.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wanted to watch the Last of Us show, but I wanted to play the game first,
well,
and I'm not sure if it's on PC yet, is it?
oh, the game, yeah.
The
So,
first one?
I could Google really quick, but I'm pretty sure you know how I said they made that the second remake like when they made it look like the sequel. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
that is on PC. Let me see.
Okay, I wanted to play the game before I saw the show because I
It is on
feel
PC.
like
It's on Steam.
okay, great. Yeah, I can finally play it now.
Yeah, I'm surprised you
Because
didn't know that.
yeah. Mm-mm. No, because the marketing must have been terrible because I didn't hear about it.
Maybe just inside PlayStation circles it was marketed.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
you should
Because
definitely play
only
that.
PlayStation people would know of it.
No, it's a must play. Now that it's out on PC, it's a must play. I don't know if
Yeah,
the port's good.
yeah.
It
I'm
seems to
definitely gonna
have
add that to my list.
good Steam reviews, so the port can't be that bad.
Have you seen it?
The show, yeah.
Mm,
Um,
What do you think?
I think I got mixed feelings on it. I definitely hold it in less high regard than I do the Fallout show. It's
Mhm,
again, it's one of them things where it's got the vibe and like all the prosthetics for the zombies and the scenery and the just the world in general looks spot on. Like you couldn't do it any better. Which is like again for the third time, it's a win. That is a win for the adaptation genre when everything just looks and feels correct. My
mhm,
main issues are like the casting. Like it's Pedro Pascal, who I'm kind of just sick to the teeth of seeing and stuff now.
Yeah.
He does like his Joel's quite good though, so it's not even like a criticism. It's just like a strange me thing where I've seen Pedro Pascal a lot, and he's sort of seems to
Yeah,
blend into
yeah,
one person.
uh, uh, Timothy Chalamet,
Yeah, Chris Pratt.
Zendaya. I mean, these people that they're not looking if they're a match or not. They're just kind of shoving them in
Yeah,
just because people have name recognition. Like it's not like they do a bad job. It's just that they're not looking for the best fit. They're just looking for a big name to put in the spot. Like I thought he was really great in Dune.
yeah.
Um, but just that now he's in everything. Now Zendaya's in everything. I don't think she's a good actor. I don't like her too much.
Oh, you don't? I haven't seen that many things with Zendaya in it, to be honest. Only like Spider Man. And
Yeah, I saw her in the Spider-Man one, and she was in Dune,
yeah,
and
Dune.
then she was in something else. But
She's
there's
in
a
plenty
couple
of stuff.
actors like that they just find them and they just shove them in everything.
Yeah. And the
And
result is they kind of blend into one person. They have a strange casting for Ellie as well, and Ellie being basically the main character of the franchise if you include a second game.
hmm
Um, kind of feel like you have to nail that casting, and I didn't like the
yeah,
casting of Ellie that much. She just doesn't come across as she doesn't quite have the like I don't know how to say it like the attitude and the charm and like the toughness of
Mm,
of Ellie from the game, but then we've only seen season 1 in the show, which is the first game, and I think the Ellie in the first game is okay translated to the show. They kind of match quite well. I'm more worried about the sequel because in the sequel of The Last of Us, Ellie is like significantly grown up and she's really hard. Like she's fucking tough as nails, and she just
yeah.
looks rough. Um,
I haven't seen the show, but I did see a comparison of what she looks like in game and the actor, and it doesn't even look
oh
close.
no, it's not even close. But I have mixed feelings on how close on how to feel about that because
Yeah.
I don't know if it needs to be close or not. I can't really decide, and I don't.
I mean, yeah. I mean, yeah, if she nailed the character, I could forgive not looking close
Yeah,
like it.
yeah, I think that's what it is for me.
I
If
could
it,
definitely
yeah,
100%. But if you're saying she didn't even nail the character, and then it feels like, you know,
yeah, no, I
it
think
feels
that is
like
the
it
main
wasn't
problem
worth
for
it.
me. If she
Mm,
nailed the character, I wouldn't care about the fact that she looks very different. But I don't
mhm,
think there was enough there for me to like forgive the fact that she looks so different. I think she came across a little bit forced sometimes.
mm,
Um, Also, this is a really weird thing, but she is a British girl, and I can tell she's faking the accent, which is like a really, really
mm,
weird thing. But I can just maybe it's just because I've heard she's in Game of Thrones as well. They're both in Game of
yeah.
Thrones. Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey. They're both in Game of
Mhm,
Thrones, and just I don't know. Maybe it's just because I've listened to her in Game of Thrones, but just something I can tell she's faking the accent, which is just a very minor nitpick. But
yeah.
I don't think it was all
Yeah.
there for
Was
me.
Christian Bale's British, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know for the longest time. He did such a good job with his accents. I just had no idea. I saw interviews I'm like, what? That's that's his actual voice? Like, holy crap.
Yeah.
So yeah, if they're a good enough actor, you won't know. And but just the fact that you can tell, it's pretty awful.
Yeah. Other shows. Have you watched The Witcher at all?
No.
The Witcher has
I
a.
didn't play the game, so
Oh, really?
uh yeah. I mean I tried to get into it, but it was something with the gameplay. It just didn't click with me,
You're
which
talking
was
about three?
unfortunate because yeah, for 3, yeah. Yeah, specifically 3. I tried to get into it because I heard so many great things about it, and I felt like, "Okay, I gotta play this game," but I just couldn't get into the swordplay aspect of it,
Oh, it's
and
it's
it
very
just didn't.
strange. It's a very strange game
Yeah,
for sword play.
yeah, it really didn't do it, and, like I said before, I'm very gameplay over story.
Yeah,
Knowing that the story was amazing didn't save it from the fact that I just didn't get enjoyment for the gameplay,
yeah,
so
absolutely understandable.
that was it
Yeah,
for me.
the
Mhm,
the show for season 1 is actually pretty cool. I'm not a huge Witcher lore guy, so if it fucked with the lore, I wouldn't be able to say. And it is
mhm,
different. It's not like a 1-to-1 of the games or whatever. Which obviously I don't think they ever are. I don't think any of the things I have on this list here are 1-to-1
right.
with the source material because that's never a thing. It's kind of something that I just kind of we
It's
kind of
it's
have
the
to give
reason why
up.
they suck so bad too,
Yeah, but it's
because
something
they
that I
just they just ignore.
give up asking for it
Yeah,
because it never happens.
mhm.
So that's kind of a given. That's like
They
my
feel
thing.
like the writers feel like they know the story better than the actual story, so they just do their own thing,
Yeah,
and it ends up being worse because surprise, surprise, the original story is why it was so popular in the first place. Who'd have
that's why
guessed?
that's why people wanted it to be translated into like purely visual media because the visual like the storytelling has if in order for people to want that the visual storytelling has to be good in the first place, otherwise
Mm,
no one would care. But it's
yep.
yeah, it's just a yeah, it's just a weird little conflict of interest between the people who make the games and the people who try and the people who adapt, and it's probably always going to be a thing.
Mm, hopefully not. Hopefully we get better about that, but I think you're right. It's just always gonna be, "Oh, well, we're writing for a different audience, so
A different audience
we're."
supposedly, as if
Yeah.
we're not, as if all the
Mhm.
fans of the game aren't going to go and watch the
Yeah.
show.
Exactly, you're already alienating anybody who liked the original material when you're like,
Yeah.
That's a different crowd.
Different crowd, different crowd. But that
Mm,
gets me very worried about the confirmed Mass Effect TV show because I've recently been really into Mass Effect. I played through the whole franchise twice in the space of like a week.
mm.
Um, and now that I
Well, you
know,
played through it twice?
yeah, I already finished second playthrough.
Wow.
Yeah, I really
Wow.
liked it. Second playthrough, I skipped past a lot of stuff because I knew what to do
Mhm,
already, and
mhm.
I just wanted to get to the good parts. But I have played it twice in the space of like a week. Yeah, all three games. I think the first
Nice.
game took me like 4 hours on my second playthrough. But
Yeah, first one wasn't too long.
no, I think if you really stretch out the first game, you can make it like a 10-hour game.
Yeah, and the second one, they had a lot of, the side quests for each of the characters. As you brought them onto the team, they had their own
Or
side
loyalty
quests, which
quest.
weren't exactly yeah, which weren't required, if I
They're
remember.
not required, but if you
But
don't do them, the character will either die in the suicide mission, or they're way more likely to die in the suicide mission, depending on what you direct them to do in the suicide mission.
hmm,
Yeah, it's a cool system. It's a really cool system because if you do everyone's loyalty mission and you get out of the suicide mission with everyone surviving, just pure euphoria. You must feel like a god because everyone's been talking about how how they're gonna die and how they're never gonna go home. It's the last night alive. Never happened to me. On my first playthrough, about 5 people died, and on my
yeah,
second playthrough, one person died, and that was right at the very end. So I thought I was gonna do it.
nice,
Anyway,
very
yeah,
nice.
really worries me about the show though because Mass Effect in particular, like out of all these games and all these properties, is just a story that I would not want touching in any way because it's perfect. Aside from like maybe the very end of the third
It
game,
is,
everything
yeah,
else is perfect. I don't want to mess with it at all. I'd cry.
it's so
I'd be
good.
distraught if it was touched in any way.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I feel like there's such a chance to actually make it, you know, not just a movie, but a TV show because there's so much story
There's so much story. It would never fit in
that
a movie.
you could definitely make, a good amount of content with it. But I just know they're just gonna go out and make their own, characters and storylines and all this shit. And I can already tell it's gonna be something they're gonna try to do their own thing and fail because
Yeah,
Mass Effect did it. They did their own thing and it was great. And I'd pay just to see it. The like you said, just to see the movie version of what I've already watched. I'd pay to see it. It's probably great.
imagine it.
But
Imagine like Garrus in full prosthetics with the full armor with the lights on it and everything in live
oh
action,
yeah.
just full budget, just looking perfect.
Yeah.
Imagine it's just I've never wanted something to be good in live action as much in my life ever.
Yeah. But also being a TV show, they have less of a budget, for that. So,
Well, yeah, but
uh,
Fallout looked okay, so cool. And Last of Us.
yeah, but Fallout didn't use a lot of prosthetics and stuff, did they?
Well, they had prosthetics for zombies, but they weren't featured that much in the show, which is probably why.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep. That's
there were
probably
a big
why.
complaint, a huge complaint about the show was that the zombies are just it's you. If you watch the show, you wouldn't even think the zombies are a threat because
Mm,
they don't feature very much in the show. It's more the human villains of the first game.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's definitely
budgetary
a
issue.
cost, a budget, yeah, a budget thing. And I feel like that'd be doing much. If they do put Garrus in, he'll be like a little very
Human.
minor role because he can't show him. Yeah, a human with blue skin.
Oh my god.
Sup,
No.
y'all? I'm Garrus.
Oh no.
Mm,
It's not even
yeah,
outside the realm of possibility. It could happen. They could have a little human Garrus with blue
yeah.
clothes on.
But it's the writer from Fast and Furious 9.
Yeah, I
So
haven't seen it. I'm never going to see that movie,
I haven't
so
seen
I don't know what
no.
that means.
I don't think I've seen a single Fast and the
Yeah,
Furious,
me neither.
but it doesn't sound good.
No, it doesn't sound good, does it? I've only all I've seen about Fast and
Mhm.
Furious is the memes of like, "Yo, so we went to the solar system and saved the galaxy," and then they have like a barbecue and they're all like drinking all the beers at the barbecue. That meme is the only thing I know about Fast and Furious. So
Yeah. But I mean, it could still be good. If you told me that the guy who made Evil Dead was making a Spider-Man movie, I'd be like, "Oh, that's gonna be weird."
true,
But hey, it
true.
came out,
Great
and
things come from the unexpected places.
yeah, and who directed Lord of the Rings? It was
Peter Jackson
Peter Jackson. He had made a very terrible horror film that I saw years before,
before Lord of the
and
Rings.
but yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I'll link it to you later. It was really like
I never knew that.
really campy. Real, it wasn't well received. Really low budget, and it looked terrible. And I recognize his name from that. And I'm like, he's making Lord of the Rings movies. Oh man, oh these aren't going to be good at all. But then I was pleasantly surprised. So it is possible, even no matter what you made before. So, but just the whole games to movie, you know, as a thing, I always stay pessimistic unless I see otherwise because I just know for sure that there's like a 99% chance that these are going to be awful, and they are. Like literally, only the Mario movie is the only thing I've heard that was at least oh okay that I've seen. You know,
that
I've
you've
I've heard
seen.
things about like Fallout and
Yeah,
Last
yeah,
of Us,
yeah.
but I haven't watched them. So the only thing I've seen that wasn't a disappointment was the Mario movie, and like I said, that's maybe a 5 out of 10.
I'd be a bit more generous. I'd probably give it like a 6 or a 7. Maybe 6. A
Mm,
7 is pushing it a bit. But like as we said before, it's just hitting them. It's just the bare minimum is the best case scenario, really. Just make it look good.
yeah.
Well, I had one more topic to talk about. It's and I think you'll like this one because I know you're into your AI and shit. Because I was just thinking, I was just going through Twitter and I was reading about like, well, AI and how they could be implemented into games one day. And
Mhm.
I've kind of thought about this before. I think I spoke to you about this before off camera as well. But can you imagine playing like a Skyrim game or a game like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, incredibly detailed, like NPCs acting like real people? But you'd go over to an NPC and you'd speak to them, and they would have like full Chat GPT integration, but they would be in character and they wouldn't be able to break character.
Mm,
Can you
yeah.
imagine? Because I feel like that isn't far away from being a thing.
No, it isn't really like that. It's pretty close. They just got to shrink the models down, and it's
Yeah,
completely possible to do something like that, which is crazy because like people are upset that we're putting AI in everything, but like it's been around forever,
yeah.
you know, and especially in stuff like well, not as much as neural networks, but they've been talking about AI in video game as far as the NPC behavior, and it's always been like some simple, algorithm or whatever,
Mhm.
like how they move and how they act. But being able to be like an actual smart like player and not just run directly at you whenever they see you, you know, I think that's the biggest inflammation. What if you're playing someone who actually played like an actual player and doesn't immediately give off the vibes that they're a bot, you
Ooh,
know?
I didn't even think about that. I was purely thinking about like the speech, but yeah, you're right. It is.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
there's no
yep, yep. You
limit.
would you
There's no
would you would
limit.
focus on the story, wouldn't
Yeah,
you? Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm focusing on the gameplay right now. And I'm telling you, like having actual, NPC opponents who can think about their strategy and carry it out,
That's scary.
and who, yeah, and that's actually being implemented. I forget who is doing it, but they're implementing bosses that can actually learn from how you play against them
Yeah,
and will counter your play style the next time you face them,
yeah. I saw that game. I don't
which
remember what
is
it's called, but yeah.
yeah, which is something that can just completely change. Because what I love about online games is is every match is different from the last. Every time you play, it's a completely different experience. Like you play different players, you have different people on your team. It's just so much, and they're actual people, so they have all these strategies that they're implementing in real time and they're reacting to, and you're coordinating. and- But imagine being able to do that with like a
In single
NPC in
player.
a single player story game.
Yeah.
Like they're not just automatically attacking the character that's close to them with their strongest spell. Like they're actually thinking. And then, like you said, you can actually interact with them instead of just going like, clicking on them, then going into set them steam and then changing from aggressive to passive,
Yeah.
in their settings. Like you can actually turn to them and be like, "Hey, Eric, I think you're getting a bit too much in the front lines there. I think I need you to hang back and cast some more support spells, or." And they'll be like, "Oh yes, Avatar. What a great recommend."
But they'd
They
all
could,
have their own like program personalities. So everything that they do and
right?
say would be
Yeah.
like they'd have a bias.
Yeah. They can go a whole lot of different directions. I think it could be really neat, and again, it can help balance the game, you know, and it can make it very more difficult if you want. Or like it can go in both. It can make it more difficult by learning how you play and countering it,
Mhm.
or it can make it easier by finding out why you're losing and then trying to balance. Depending on the difficulty you select in the beginning of the game, they can kind of even it out for you. Kind of like how Left 4 Dead had a. Have you heard about that? They had like the director system,
No? Oh.
which was like in
When
the
you say director
background.
system, I remember something about this.
Yeah, in the background, they had this system that figured out took into account how well you were fighting off the hordes to know when to send the next horde. And if
Okay.
you're really struggling to kill the zombies, they'd kind of ease up on you. They wouldn't
Oh.
send as many, or they'd send less at a time.
That's kind of
And
what I was thinking about.
if
Yeah.
you were blazing through them, then they'd send more of them, or they'd
Hmm.
make them harder, like in real time. And as you were playing each level, they'd figure it out individually, and that was really cool. It was really dynamic because they didn't always come at the same time,
Hmm.
and yet it tried to figure out how many was the right amount to send to you to not overwhelm you or not bore you to death. So it's basically that, but with a lot more thought put into it, with a lot more, memory of past events. So it could be really cool if implemented well. There's just so many different
There's so many
possibilities.
because every time you like, for every possibility that you think about, there's 100 that you haven't thought about yet. Like
Right.
just absolutely everything. Like imagine any system that requires input in a game can have an AI integrated to it and make it better. Every single
Mhm.
system.
Like you like Borderlands,
Yeah.
and something that they're always talking up about is the amount of guns they have in the game.
Yeah.
And the way they figure that out is they take a gun and they take a set type of gun, and then they have all these pre-made stats and attributes and skills that they put on
Mhm.
the weapon itself, but they're just random combinations of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
So if you change all these, that's how they get the thing like over 4 billion guns in the game.
Yeah, because they have
It's
like
because they're
they have
all
like 10 factors and then they
yeah,
randomize them to the point where
yeah.
you end up with a certain amount of total combinations.
Right, but if you have, like, an AI system figuring that out in the game, like, suddenly there's, like, trillions or
Mhm.
quadrillions, and, like, it really could. And what it could do is it could actually look into and figure out what guns you do enjoy using,
And give you them.
and give you more of something like that,
Yeah.
or just, finding out, weaknesses in your gameplay and finding weapons to give you to help strength, like you said,
Yeah.
there's just so many ways they can implement
That's a
it
big like
that can.
difficulty in balancing is a big factor for that because they can because just as all you need to do is be able to analyze how the player plays, and then you can with that information you can do an infinite amount of things.
Mhm.
So once
Yeah,
we've reached
and
that
I
step,
feel like there's gonna be a lot more of that because it adds so much quality to the game and so much replayability if the game changes so much based on how you play it. And if you have any way to, okay, now you're pressing the wrong keys on the keyboard. It's okay when you press the space bar, but those
not the
function
other
keys do
ones.
something different.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways you can impact the game and add more value to it. And of course you're going to have configuration for it. You can tell it how helpful you want it to be or unhelpful.
Yeah.
um
And like just imagine something like a Mass Effect setting where you're constantly like talking to people and
yeah.
and they all have like a chat GPT integrate. Obviously, I'm just saying chat GPT, but I'm imagining things are going to come around that are going to be better than chat GPT very quickly.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and just slot them into, it doesn't mean you have to like run an instance of chat GPT every time. Like you just have one running in the background, but depending on who you speak to, it'll slip into character, and it'll make sure that everything that person is saying is like, you know, no immersion breaks basically. Like everything that person is saying, but they would only like they would say it for their own reasons. Like they have like their self thinking, they have their own biases and their own input.
Yeah. Yeah, and it'd be able to dynamically change the story. And like user created content
Oh god,
is going to
yeah,
get like a huge, a huge increase of that. And especially when you think like so much user created content for video games is done by just people who play the game, who aren't a big studio, who don't have any kind of studio. It's just like a guy in a thing. So when they need, assets made, like they could, just resort to that instead. And it could be they could use the in-game, renderer for a lot of that stuff,
yeah,
like what am I to say? When a system like Diablo makes its levels procedurally generated, you know what that
yeah.
is?
Well, a lot of procedurally generated levels have been a thing for a long time. Yeah, but with
Right,
AI,
right. And that's pretty widely accepted thing. But if you can imagine something like that, but with AI, where instead of using these pre-made assets, it could actually generate them on the fly,
yeah,
Like it you don't have to tell it to make a statue of an angel or something. It knows how to make statues, and it knows how to make people. It'll make statues of different kinds of people or
Mm.
mythical objects,
God, yeah,
and
it gets
no,
deep.
yeah. So like they could actually build in user creation into an engine that allows you to be more creative than just selecting pre-made assets and slapping them together.
Yeah.
So even inside the game, they can add more like that. There's just so many directions you can take it. I feel like it's going to be really great. People are all in an uproar over like
AI
people
art.
doing asset flip games with like
Yep.
AI art and stuff, and it's like it's a tool. Don't get mad at the tool. Get mad at the people
Mhm.
using it wrong. Like it
Mhm.
can actually be used for
Yep.
some cool stuff,
Yep,
and
absolutely.
we have yet to see it, but how it can be used in games for a lot of these ways we're talking about. But the
Yeah.
potential's there, and they're definitely working on it.
I remember I was,
So it could.
yeah, I remember I was mind blown back when I found out that Minecraft was procedurally generated
Oh yeah,
back in like 2010 or 2011. Because I was like, how come I walk around the map but there's always different stuff? And then I obviously discovered that it was generating randomly, like wherever you walk. And back in the day,
yeah,
it used to be fucking busted as well. Like it used to just
yeah.
have so many glitches.
I remember Diablo was like that when I first played it. I'm like, I've been in this dungeon before. This is completely different. What's going on?
Is that the
And then the
like
next time I
original
played it,
Diablo?
it's like, yeah,
Oh.
yeah, like the original time. Like each time I play this level, it's completely different. How do they do it? It doesn't look like it's random crap. It's actually there's actually some some form to a lot of this stuff.
Mhm.
So and that's been around for a while, procedurally generated. So imagine procedurally generated supercharged with the ability to, you know, add in a lot more because like scripted stuff in procedurally generated games, they just take a pre-scripted thing and they just plop it down
Yeah.
in a spot that's pretty much a I won't say random because it'll be like it has to be such and such distance from
Mhm.
the start so you don't immediately trigger it and all this stuff.
Mhm.
But mostly pseudo random. But imagine like an AI just being able to make its own scripts up,
Yeah.
as it goes. I feel like it'll be really big. The first game, like that comes out that just makes itself as you play it,
And I
like
feel
there's
like it
no,
probably isn't very far away because all these things that we're
no,
talking about exist. They just need to be combined with each other. They all exist.
yeah, yeah. That's the technology is there. It just needs to be integrated, and it needs to be shrunken down into something that can run on a system,
Yeah, optimize.
on a consumer grade system.
Mhm.
Yeah, and optimized so it runs on a lot more variety of systems. But we're getting there, man. It's gonna be crazy. People think that it's only a net bad for games because of some people have been shortcutting on paying artists because they want to make a drawing or a cover art or ad or whatever marketing they've been caught doing.
Yeah.
But it can really help a lot behind the scenes that people haven't been thinking about.
Nah, they need to open their
So
minds. Just like we always say, it's a tool, and it's a tool that you can use for bad things, and you can use with like whatever intention you desire. But if you use it
mhm,
in a way that is where you combine it with things that are like artistic and created and like
mhm,
things that you have designed, and you introduce it in a way that Bennett like it it like enhances the thing that you've built, then
yeah,
that's when we're going to realize how fucking good this actually is and how cool this is going
mm,
to be. Like I said, the NPCs, the game is like, imagine if that was the only AI integration, just the NPC speaking to you. It would make the game like 100 times more interesting, and that's just one basic implementation of AI.
yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be wild. It's gonna keep getting more complex. It's gonna be run more efficiently. And hardware's keep gonna get faster. So, um, well, we'll see. It's definitely getting here.
All right, I think that's all I got time for tonight. We landed on about 2 hours again, so probably a good time to end it anyway.
All right, cool.
Well, thank you for joining me again, episode 3.
No problem. It was fun.